Welcome to the Silent Epidemic by Omniotherapy. I'm your host, Hatice Mehmet Quirk, and today we have an extraordinary guest, Paul Hannaford, who has turned his life around and now dedicates his time to educating and safeguarding young people from the dangers of drugs, gangs, and knife crime. Paul, welcome. It's an honour to have you here, and I can't wait to dig into your story.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Thanks. So, Paul, you've had involvement in crime in your past, which you now openly share with students across the UK. Can you walk us through your journey and what inspired the turning point in your life?
From the start, my childhood. I mean, it was 23 years of drug use. I think my first drug of choice was alcohol and I think weed.
Right.
Leading up towards, I guess, my drug and alcohol, the start of it, I have to look at my childhood and look what experiences I had before I picked it up and why I picked it up, which obviously I still look at today, back at my recovery. And I mean, my first experience was trauma, which, we all go through, different levels and strengths of trauma, I guess, was when my mum and dad split up when I was 10. And, at that point, my dad was my world. I love my mum, but my dad was absolute. I was obsessed with him. He'd take me football, even if you were around the corner in the car to go and pick up the Chinese. Let me come with you. He's absolutely. And we moved into a pub when we was when we got to the age of 10. Mum and dad was drinking a local pub, and they had the opportunity to become landlords of the pub. So it was great. It went from a 3-bedroom house to this 10-bedroom pub with fruit machines, pool tables. What kid wouldn't love that? Yeah. But my dad was quite a heavy drinker. There's always alcohol in the house, but my dad was a really heavy drinker. And I noticed when he got in the pub, lots of after-hours drinking. Him and my mum were arguing. I was conscious of it, but trying to ignore it. And then, cut long story short, I come home from school one day and my mum said, we're leaving. And she had the suitcase at the back door. And I was like, going where? And, and she said, I just can't handle your dad's behaviour anymore. And so the relationship broke down. From that day on, I think at the age of 10, it sort of broke my heart a little bit. Yeah. I'm 10. You don't meant to have your heart broken at 10 by your parents, but I did. Mum got a new boyfriend eventually, which she's entitled to. I found it hard to adjust to him, but I did eventually later on in life. But then I got into school and I started to sort of I love primary school. When my dad split up, loved primary school. But then I started to obviously get into secondary school, resent teachers, and I sod it, and I just tried a bit of cannabis. But it sort of affected me more than other boys. Other boys put it down. I was every day. Stopped playing football, going to school, went to my homework, teaching on my case, swearing at staff. So they wouldn't tolerate my behaviour. So I ended up in one of their specials called sort of pupil referral unit. Now what they are is now they call them SEMH schools today, social, emotional, mental health. They fall under the umbrella of kids that obviously are struggling in life, things like ADHD and that. Now years ago, obviously, it wasn't flagged up. We were just naughty kids. Yeah. A lot of us had issues. So I turned up to this school, mixture of black, white, Asian boys, some girls. Most of the boys in school were a bit older than me. So I started hanging about, no gang members. Next thing, I got a big knife in my pocket. The drugs are changing. So now we're getting to A class. And then I remember I'd done my first prison sentence at 14, and I went to this. I got 3 months, and I went to this prison centre, this detention centre, and it was quite harsh. They shaved all your hair off. You had to march and do this, and you have to dig holes in the daytime, and then go back, clean your boots, and stand there like soldiers. Really, really strict. But I remember one particular day, I'm cleaning my boots in the yard, and they come around and inspect your kit. You clean them properly, and I left one little speck of dirt on the bottom of my boot. And I remember the big guard that we used to call him Redbeard, because he always had a big red face, big beard, 6'5". Some of them were ex-army, not all of them. And I left a speck of dirt on my boot, and he went, look at that speck of dirt. And as I went down to look at it, he got his boot and it's stamped on my head in the yard. And it cut my face, and he kept his foot, and it was really painful. I remember it. I was only, say, 14. That stamping on my head didn't bother me, because I've had my stamped 100 times. Yeah, but what bothered me was he publicly humiliated me in front of the other guards. Yeah. So what I did with him was picked up resentment. And I left that jail within 1 hour being out of prison gate. I committed another crime. So it just shows you that at this point now, I'm going through all this trauma stuff, the drugs, the violence with the gang. So inevitably, I just sort of anyone in authority, uniform, I resented them. So now I've got that button, like the fuck it button. Going through life, I thought, right, this is my life now. I'm going to commit crime. I'm willing to do a prison sentence. Started doing credit card fraud. Got to 18. I'm in a suit every day, so I'm out doing credit card fraud. Now, years ago, we used to get credit cards from the postman. You had bent postman. So it weren't like chip and pin. It was a swipe. Do you remember? PDQ. Yeah. So long as the card wasn't reported stolen. So obviously they're not reported stolen because they're fresh in the letters. Yeah, we get them in the letters down the pub. We go out all around Lakeside Blue or rinsing the card. So I was smart in a suit all day. I had to look like I got money. Going down the pub at night, just smashing myself to pieces with alcohol. Cocaine come along. I prefer ecstasy more than cocaine. I did like cocaine, but ecstasy I liked. So at the age of sort of 19, 20, I got a girlfriend. I sort of moved in with her. And then, obviously, one of my gang members went to prison, done a short sentence in Pentonville. But whilst he was in there, he didn't tell me, he tried heroin. That word for us, as growing up, heroin, you know, associated with junkies.
Yeah.
And you see the addicts.
Yeah.
And they're dirty, they're filthy, they don't wash. At this point, I'm wearing a suit, I've got a diamond ring, I do my hair, or the hair then. I was a real creep. But you know, I'm immaculate. Oh, inside, I'm...
Yeah. Your mask looks good, yeah.
From the outside, I look okay. But my life's still manageable. Yeah. And then, so he come out of prison, and one day I went to Norwich to go and do some crime, shoplifting and credit card fraud, and we had to come on top. The police looking for us. So by the time we got back to get some obviously some coke and weed, we couldn't get any. But in his block of flats where he lived, he says, a guy upstairs, he said he sells heroin. And I looked at him and said, what do you mean? He said, well, I was in jail with him. I tried it once. Do you want to get it? So at first I said no, but anyway, because I couldn't get any weed or coke, I said, come on in, get a tenner's worth. So I got it. And all I knew about heroin was that you put it on tin foil, you smoke it. So I've had a couple of lines in this block of flats over at Barking in Thamesview Estate. And the feeling this drug gave me knocked me clean out. I woke up the following morning, and I think all the drugs I'd taken from the age of 13 to 21, that blew them all out of the water. Because it is the most powerfulest drug on the planet, heroin, without a doubt, you know. And I felt dirty, I felt disgusted. And I said to John, my mate, I said, look, don't tell the rest of the gang, you know what I mean? Then 2 days later, it's just on me, you know, get more. So when I got more, over a period of the next year, I started to withdraw from the gang. My girlfriend noticed I was standing out a lot, losing weight, stopped eating. I think I lost 5 stone the first year, so everyone knew I was on the gear. Then I found myself in drug dens with these addicts that you see in the street. And I shook them my nose when I was 18 and judged them, and now I'm hanging about with them. And it was really, but then what happened was, the problem with me was, being an addict, I just wanted more. But then I started hanging about with addicts that were injecting. Now, growing up as a kid, I hated needles. I just go to the dentist, I just couldn't stand it. But what happened was, one night in a drug den, a guy in Barking said, do you want me to inject you? I went, go on, and he injected me. IV in any drug is far greater than smoking it. And I loved it. Then I learned how to do it myself. It took a while. But all the veins in my hand started to sort of subside. Then I started smoking crack, which is a form of cocaine, which is a pure form. Then I started injecting crack. And I found that I was in a drug den one day, not far from here, funny enough, and I pulled a needle out my arm, and the metal bit on the end snapped off under the skin. So I remember I got some tweezers. I was trying to dig it out. It didn't hurt me, little needle, so I left it. Then I remember 3 days later, my arm started going jet black, swell up. So I went to the hospital in Romford. They operated, put me asleep, and the doctor said, we've left it in your arm. It's near a nerve. So if we take it out, it might damage your fingers. And do you know what? I can feel it now, it's still there.
Really?
So what happened was, as I left the hospital, I said, where can I inject? And I actually hanging about with all these drug addicts in drug dens every day. And the hardcore users that have been around a while, all their veins are destroyed. But the biggest vein in their body is in our groin, called the femoral. But it's that deep in your leg. So I had to use a 2.5-inch syringe needle to get to it. So at this point, my habit went up to about £500 a day. So for me to get £500 cash every day, I had to steal around £2,000 worth of stuff in department stores. Harrowing, Selfridges, Lakeside Blue. I got away with it for years. So I'd nick, good designer stuff. The guys in the pub give me 500 quid for it. So you picture this. At this point, right, I'm 23. I'm in a mess. I've not eaten for 3 or 4 days. I've had the same clothes on for weeks, same underwear for weeks. I've not washed. I look awful.
So by this point, you've lost the mask. The suit's gone.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
looking
exposed now.
Right.
Completely exposed. This is me. I have no moral compass. I have no interest in self. I'm completely selfish. So self-absorbed with this drug that with that £500 that's in my hand, anyone in their right mind, starving hungry, will go and buy a sandwich. Anyone in their right mind will go and buy some toothpaste, toothbrush. Anyone in their right mind will go and buy a clean pair of underpants, right? You know, common sense. I don't care. And I just go and give all that money to the drug dealer. And I rush off to the nearest public toilet or drug den, and I inject in my leg every day. And it got to the point where I was going to these drug dens, and sometimes people were in a drug den, so I'd go into a public toilet, McDonald's table toilet. And do you know what, hey, at that point, it just shows you where the illness wanted me. It wanted me by myself, sitting in a public toilet, and I'd be all night injecting, and eventually, like midnight, the cleaner would knock on the door, and I'd have to leave there. But at that point, and that sounds probably crazy to some people, I'm okay, because that is where the illness wanted me. Isolated, absolutely injecting every day, and I was okay with that, even though I had no other choice. But that is where addiction wanted me. Then my legs started to break down.
But sorry to stop you there. But it was probably the oblivion, right? In
Yeah.
terms of you just didn't matter what your
No. As
surroundings
long as I got
were.
that drug in my body.
You was yeah, and it
Yeah.
just brought you to that
Yeah.
oblivion of
Takes
just
away from reality.
blocking. Yeah, it just blocked everything away.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter that you were in a
No.
dirty toilet or
No.
what have you.
No.
It was just that feeling of oblivion,
Yeah.
and that's where. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. It just got to me to a place where it didn't matter where I was. Who'd want to
Mm.
sit in a dirty, filthy public
Yeah.
toilet for hours injecting? Yeah. It got to the point where I started using dirty needles. I used the same needle 50 times. My legs blocked like balloons, started picking scabs. And I started getting this little hole on my left leg, that big it was. So I picked it. And where the blood clot in my left leg blew up. Now, anything in the body to heal needs a good blood flow. That's what blood does, heals. But the blood going to my leg wouldn't, and the hole got bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually, it got so big that it went from top of my leg to my ankle, and you could actually see bone.
Wow.
Now, the only way I could stop the blood coming out my legs, I had no fresh bandages. So the nearest sterile dressing I could get was a sanitary towel to soak up the blood.
Yeah.
So I get the sanitary towels with some sellotape. I'm a little like Frankenstein. And I sellotape all these nappies and sanitary towels around my legs. It was all right getting them off. Getting them off next day was difficult. I've been cracked in trying to pull them off. So at this point now, you've got to remember is I'm struggling to get to shops to steal stuff because a lot of the shops know me. There's pictures of me, Harrods, Selfridges. So it's not just about going into the shop. I'm known and they're on my case, security guards. It's getting there. But I still need my drugs.
Yeah.
Now, years and years ago, we had a couple of revolvers, guns, when I was a gang leader. We had artificial ones, real ones. And I went and dug one up one day, and it'd been there for years. At my mum's house, buying a fish and chip shop. So all these dealers that know me really well, and I'm getting their car, giving them 500 quid a day now, I'm sticking guns in their head. You can only rob so many dealers, yeah? Please believe me, yeah. These are big guys, and it takes a lot of courage. And in one particular night, robbed a dealer, the stuff I robbed was too strong, went to a drug den, instead of going to McDonald's, injected myself, overdose. Now, lucky enough, obviously, unknown to me, the drug addict called an ambulance. Yeah, so I had a heart attack. So they brought me back to life with that machine. They cut all my genes down, rushed me to hospital. And I remember they gave me a blood test while I was in the hospital, and the doctor said to me, listen, he said, you're lucky to be in hospital. He said, you've got septicemia and your hemoglobin's dropped. What that was my immune system had crashed.
Yeah.
And I caught pneumonia as well. He said, you've got to stay in the hospital 3 days. We need to give you a blood transfusion. We might have to cut your leg off. I pushed him out of the way, left the hospital. And the reason I left the hospital, because a big bag of drugs I'd robbed left in the drug den. And I know in 4 days' time, knowing 4 I'm going to die. But that's how crazy I was with addiction. The doctors told me straight, you're going to die in 4 days. You must stay in hospital. We give you a blood transfusion. And I remember going round to the drug den. Now, I don't say this in primary schools. I have to tailor my talk for kids.
Yeah.
You know, this is the police station I've got to walk past to get to the drug den. I'll try to kill myself in there, cut all my wrists open, and, you know, like, I should cover myself in my own poo. And just that mental health side of addiction. I hated the police, but they're looking for me. And somehow, hey, I stood outside the police station, and I just knew that that day was my destiny. Go drug den, die in 4 days, or pluck the courage up, walk into that police station. You're the last place in the world I want to ask for help, but I knew there's help there. And somehow, I had all blood in my shoe. It was freezing cold. It was raining. It was a dark winter's night. I remember November, December. I looked up, and I've been to this police station dozens of times. And somehow, people say to me, what made you, I just felt like this helping hand just pushed me in there, something. I walked in there, looked at the police officer. He looked at me, the custody sergeant. He knew me really well. I said 3 words. I remember it clearly. I said, please help me. And I remember falling to the floor, broke down. I literally cried. And I think the last time I cried like that was when my mum and dad split up. You know, like that really emotional, proper, like broken, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally broken. They arrested me, put me in a police car, rushed back to hospital, put this great big tube in my neck, only vein I had pulled through. 4 days later, got me caught in a wheelchair. So I ended up in Southend down there because I had a warrant out for my arrest. So I sat in front of the judge in the wheelchair, and he went 6 months in prison. So he sent me to Chelmsford prison down the road here. Now, when you go to prison, first person sees a doctor. He looks at my legs. He went, you can't come in my prison. We can't amputate your leg. It's too bad. So I don't know if you know, there's a hospital called Broomfields up in Chelmsford. They sent me there to have my leg cut off. So they handcuffed me to the bed. The guards were there. I'm still a prisoner, but I'm in the hospital. And he suggested putting maggots in my legs. I said, maggots? And they, yeah. And so I got all these maggots in a test tube from a hospital. Put them on my leg and wrapped it. And all the maggots started to chew the flesh, which I show kids today, find it fascinating. So I managed to get all the pictures in the hospitals. Anyway, the maggots saved my legs. And then after 12 weeks, I took the handcuffs off and said, you're free. I served my sentence. And at that point, it was like, where do I go? They walked off. And the nurse walked into my room and said, I'm sorry to tell you this, Paul, now you're not in prison, you've got to leave. And at that point, hey, I think my whole life smashed me in the face. No one come to visit me. Why would they? I stole from my mum. I put her through hell. My brother, I just disappeared. So everyone probably thought I was dead or given up on me. And at that point, I remember in the locker next to my bed in the carrier bag was a filthy, dirty, blood-stained tracksuit, the same tracksuit I arrested my police. That was my world. That's all I owned. So then I got, right now, I'm 12 weeks off drugs, you know, and I've been handcuffed, no choice. But now I've got a choice. I can go back to drugs and probably die, or go to rehab. And I remember this rehab in Somerset. One of my pals went there years and years ago, and his name was Larry. So I thought, wonder if he's still down there. So I had the morning quickly. So I made a few phone calls, and I managed to get hold of him. I said, any chance I can come to the rehab? He went, let me make some phone calls. So later on that afternoon, I got to leave later on that day to the hospital. He said, there's a bed for you, but it's not till Friday. Now this was Monday morning. And I said, I ain't got to. If I leave this hospital now, I'm going to go drug. I need to come somewhere now, immediately. So I called the nurse in, the main sister, who'd been looking after me for 12 weeks. And I was no ag, you know, with them. And I said, look, I've got a rehab to go to. Can you let me stay till Friday? And she went, well, give me an hour. So she come back to my little room I was in, and she went, all right, we're going to bed you and feed you. And I know that she saved my life that day, that nurse. 100%. So it bed me, fed me, looked after me. So Friday come, the prison come back up, give me a warrant, the travel warrant, got me to Western-super-Mare, Somerset. Got to this treatment centre, and that's where it all began, really. Got introduced to a programme, started going to meetings, and I slowly recovered. I was still in hospital, my legs, you know, they've never healed up. I still dress them every day today, even though I'm nearly 18 years clean next month. But it's and it just allowed me to go into treatment to look at how do I stay stopped from taking drugs one day at a time. Not 5 years' time, not yesterday, today. How do I wake up every day and have the ability to not want to go and take drugs or drink alcohol? And, you know, because I went in there like an emotional baby, really. Knew nothing about myself. And you talk about, I know, mental health. You know, what did I have? Did I have a mental health problem, or did I have an emotional problem from trauma as a kid? And never really dealt with it. And the only way I could sort of deal with that was tranquilise myself with drugs.
You just blocked it out, didn't you?
And from that, there was harm.
And not just that, it doesn't sound like you just blocked it out, but obviously you were going through pain with the breakup of your parents, and, you know, you're taken away from a home that you love, you know, all right, yes, it sounds like there was problems towards the end between your parents, but you could do what kids can do, which was you blocked it out and you sort of just ignored it, and it was okay to be dealing with at the time. And then all of a sudden the rug's been pulled from underneath your life, as you know, it is changing. Your mum's got a new partner, and it's all changed. And then you sort of went down that route of changing schools as well at that time. And then you've realised, actually, this ain't for me. I'm not fitting here because you were unsettled inside. You couldn't fit in at school. And then it sounds like you know, even your first experience, as you said, of going to prison. And those guards, what good were they really doing by stamping on someone's head?
Is that physical abuse?
Of course it is, yeah.
I'm under the Crown, right? Under the Crown,
exactly.
HMP. They're meant to rehabilitate me and have a duty of care. Now, if I'd have been a real arsehole of a kid and started throwing my hands about, and be a real nuisance, you could half warrant that. But I wasn't. I left a speck of dirt on the boot. And he physically abused me, stamped on my head, cut in my face in front of other guards. Another guard punched me in the face and had my hands in my pocket. So that basically, that falls under the umbrella of physical abuse.
Of course,
That really didn't bother me. All right, it did. But I've had that done 1,000 times. I've been stabbed 7 times. You know, that stuff. What bothered me was, as I said, being publicly humiliated. So now I pick up resentment. Now I'm not spiritually well enough, far from it. I can't even spell spiritual at that point to let go of that.
But not just that, but their role isn't to abuse you. Their role is to help rehabilitate you. You needed guidance and support and love and care, which is... That's it, which is pretty much...
Complete opposite.
Yeah, the complete opposite. But that's kind of what you do now within the schools, isn't it?
I hope so.
You go in and... Do you know what? It was many, many years ago, and it was before, around about the same sort of time that you'd met Mark, but Kayla didn't know that Mark knew you. And you'd gone to her school in Romford, and she came home, and she must have been about 9. And she was like, oh, Mum, this guy came into our school today. And she was explaining your story, and as she explained it, Mark's picked up that it was you.
Of course.
But she was so touched by it that I don't think she'd ever came home and recited what had gone on in an assembly. She just weren't one of them kids that was that interested in school. But you'd really struck a nerve with her. But she connected with you. And that for me really it resonates, and seems like that's what you do in general with the talks that you do in the schools. But you're resonating with the real nitty gritty that people don't really want to talk about.
No.
That unfortunately it is happening in our world, and the kids as young as 9 are affected by the things that you talk about.
Well, if you look, and you're right what you said, the amount of parents who contact me via my social media platforms and all, my daughter and son has never come home from school. They give me a grunt, right, and sat there for an hour and spoke about you.
Yeah.
Because what I do with children, I try and put them in my shoes. I want just like you, year 5, year 6, like your daughter was. I've got my whole world in front of me, right? Playing football, I'm enjoying life. I'm a bundle of love, full of life. I'm enthusiastic, I'm curious, but my curiosity in terms of wanting to take that drug and put myself in that vulnerable situation, them group of boys, peer pressure, just to fit in, to be accepted, because there's no dad around. I'm not saying not having a dad did that, but I think them traumatic situations might have led me to. And then, so I explained to children, and I mentioned a word like I did with your daughter, your mum, what I did to my mum, the emotional. My mum, when I first got my relationship, my mum's better today. But mum always used to say to me, and this is my job to make sure, including you, a mum or a dad never gets this knock on the door. Mum always says to me, when the police will pull up outside looking for me, there's always looking for me, different police forces. So the last known address for them was my mum's house. I was never there, disappeared, face of the earth. So when she see the police pull outside and walk down the driveways, knock on the door, she'd have an anxiety panic attack, because she thought they were going to say to her, not where's Paul, can you come identify his body, we found him somewhere. Now by the time we finish this podcast, somewhere in London, Essex, a mum has had a knock on the door this morning by the police to say, can you come down to the hospital morgue, because we found your son dead, you stabbed to death, or your daughter's died from drugs. This is happening every day of the week. So it's my job to make sure every kid I speak to from the age of 8 to 18, their mums never get a knock on the door. Now, it's important that we talk about ignorance, and I find it really hard to believe, and I've done a lot of research. I spoke to 1 million kids. I'm very busy. I'm off to Cub Scouts tonight, tomorrow morning. I'm off to Taunton. I've got 1,000 kids to educate tomorrow, 1,000. I have no magic wand in what I do, but I just find it hard to believe that someone in a position of care, authority, that's works with lots of kids, has that final decision. And please believe me, I'm not going to judge anyone's education, but there are a lot of people who have no intention whatsoever. And you look and you think, well, every murderer I speak to in prison, every young person that gets involved with drugs or ends up becoming a drug addict, they were once young in primary school. How many 10-year-olds in this country right now carrying knives? None. How many 10-year-olds are addicted to A-class drugs? None. But everyone that is addicted to A-class drugs or in prison for murder once 10. So did we miss an opportunity to prevent that? We didn't miss it. We didn't consider it. So lack of consideration for the well-being of our children, right, can cause them harm. So it's so important, like I did with your daughter, to let them understand that, yes, you will go to parties, and let's not bury it in the sand. When you get to 14, the ice cream jelly stops. Who goes to parties at 14, 15, it's ice cream and jelly? Come on. But there is a certain drug in the world that the gangs now do want to sell children, which is called crack cocaine, heroin, which I got on. That is a drug of point of no return. I do explain to kids in schools about the consequences of weed. I had a boy in the school put his hand up and he's a bit cocky. He said, I smoke a bit of weed. I said, okay, I'm not a drug addict. I think he's 15. So I said to him, what job do you want to do? He said, I'm going to be a pilot. I said, why is that? He said, my dad's a pilot. I said, good. I said, how long before you leave school? He went, 4 years. I said, what's the procedure of being a pilot? He said, well, I have to go to aviation school 4 years and then I'll get a pilot licence. I said, okay, come 22, 23, 100 grand a year, pilot? He went, yeah, a great job. I said, by the way, I said, you do realise when you become a pilot, the law is you have to be tested every day you get in the cockpit of an aeroplane before you fly off. It's a law. Following day, Instagram, DM me. I'm the boy as a pilot. I've stopped smoking weed. Thanks. So it's not just about kids becoming drug addicts, drug driving, And a lot of people don't realise this. I'll say to the kids, put your hands up if you want to drive a car. All hands go up. And if you're, smoking weed when you've got your licence, you can lose your licence for a year or two. So it's about the well-being of all our children. Alcohol, we know, look at the amount of young people who abuse alcohol now they're 18, and it's just about trying to point kids in the right direction.
And again, even with the alcohol, they go out and have a heavy night's drink. Well, if you wake up the next day and you get in the car, chances are you're well over the limit. But they don't realise it.
No.
And it is an education process, and it is almost like they're taught the basics at school in terms of what
Maths,
the
English,
curriculum
PE,
is and all of that.
science.
But life skills are missing.
Missing
Life
completely.
skills. But also not just life skills, but the mental health element in terms of it's okay to reach out to a teacher or to
100%.
someone and say, I'm not feeling good,
Yeah.
or this is going on at home
Yeah.
and I'm upset by
Yeah.
it. To identify that disconnection
Yeah.
that was going on, much like yourself, which
Yeah.
you can identify with. You were disconnected from your world,
Yeah.
but at a time then you moved to a school, so all of a sudden you've got new educators all around you who you've not got a connection with. You were just seeking
Yeah.
some form of connection.
They were quick enough
Mhm.
to give me detention.
Yeah.
When I was struggling at home,
Yeah.
when I was going, they were quick enough for detention, but it was never quick enough to actually sit me down
And say what's
and
going
either
on.
ask me what's wrong
Yeah.
or get someone to speak to me about situations that later on could harm me.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And you look, and that's that ignorance, and you look and you think, I know, you know, the concept and the foundation of any child's schooling is academics, English, maths, PE, drama, all to give them. But as you said it, where's that life skills? Where's that? Because every stabbing
Yeah.
that's took place in the past year, lots of them on the street. Every gang member hangs about in the street. Every drug deal, you know, is normally done by the street. So you look, you think, where do our kids hang about? You know, classroom, they're safe. Your home, anyone's home. Not majority of kids are safe.
Yeah.
It's when they go out, and you want that as a parent yourself, and every parent deserves that peace of mind. When your kids go out, even though they're going to go against your will, like did your mum at some point in life, they're not going to go completely against it, like I did, in terms of getting heavily involved with gangs. We know now gang members all carry knives, these zombie knives.
Yeah.
So any boy falls into the world of gangs, he's going to do two things: carry a great big knife and sell and take drugs. And at that point, obviously, he's at risk of becoming a drug addict or being stabbed to death or killing someone, going to prison. So when I go into prisons now and talk to murderers, I remember going to a prison I went to a few prisons lately, prisons I've been in myself, but I went to one in Middlesbrough called Home House Prison, and I spoke to 60 murderers. So I sat in this room with these guys. They've been away since they were 15, 16. They're in their 30s now, right? So they've been away all their life.
Yeah.
The reason I want to spoke to them, because to get parole, you have to have 2 years worth of drug-free urine tests, negatives. Now, the guys obviously are methamphetamine addicts, they want to get a parole. So they go on a drug-free wing. Now, the reason I went and spoke to them, because all their murders were drug and alcohol related. So when I spoke to these men, and they told me them what they did, and you know what, I spent half a day in there, and to sit in a room, I've been in prison 15 times, right, and prison doesn't bother me, but you sit and look at all these men, how socially disconnected they were to life. All they've known since they were kids is prison.
Yeah.
And they were big, strong, tough-minded men. They were like patting my hands at the end. A few of them got upset, and you know, it was a great day. But the thing I asked at the end was, and this is a really pivotal point in terms of what's going on in terms of the ignorance. I said, you know, all them years ago, before you fell into your murders, and how many talks did you have on the? And not one of them said, "This is our first ever one."
Yeah.
And so my talk was to encourage them when they get out, like I did. You've got an opportunity to get into recovery.
Yeah.
And because if you do go back to drugs and alcohol, you'll break your parole. You might kill another man.
Yeah.
Go back to prison. And also, when I left, we calculated what it's cost the taxpayer, us, to keep them 60 men in prison over the past few years. £60 million.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Just 60 men. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of murderers in this country, costing billions. And 70% of them are for drug, alcohol-related or gang-related violence. So if we started to, we don't, you know, the government don't pay a penny for the prison system, we do, the taxpayer. If you invested 10% of all them billions into early intervention education, then you would reduce, never stop, the prisons. And look at the prison, they're full up. Drugs.
The other thing to think about is what these young kids don't realise is it might seem fun and interesting in the beginning to be, you know, included in the gang
Of course,
and all of that sort of stuff. But they don't realise once you're in, there's no getting out, is there?
Yeah.
And that's the bit, because I've worked with a couple of people, because again, I don't really know the sort of environment and what have you. You see what you see on the TV, and it's not really clear. You don't know.
No.
But having that understanding of actually, it's not just that way in the movies that once you're in, you can't get out. That is the way it is.
Well, when you anyone who joins a gang, you are going to be a low-ranking gang member. To be a gang leader,
Yeah.
you have to be in it for years.
Yeah.
So once you become a low-ranking ganger like I was, I got bullied at first in my gang. Yeah, older drugs, carried a knife.
Yeah.
Like county lines today.
Yeah.
You know, you got all these people going and doing this county line stuff, right? They've just fell out of an office. No disrespect to them. You know, I was doing this at 13, 14, yeah, living it, yeah. And then obviously I got kidnapped when I was 15, had more trauma by gangsters. My gang leader set me up to rob this place. I robbed it, nicked the money. The guy come kidnap me 3 days later. Gangsters tortured me. He was going to throw me in the river and drown me. It's all in the book I read. So all that, you look at that gang life. But then again, once I fell into it, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And they were protecting me as well. So having that protection was number one for me, because by myself I'm now vulnerable. I've joined a gang, and other gang members know that in the area. So I need them. Obviously the gang broke up eventually because of addiction. I mean, 3 of my gang members died from heroin. 3 have got severe mental health. I see them some days outside shops. Nice looking boys now, young. Some of them good footballers. Cracking heroin, got them. One of my gang members killed a man in a pub. You know, he didn't kill him whilst being in the gang. He done it like 12 years ago in a pub. I think he come out of the gang with that mindset of always carrying a knife. Never used it, got in a fight, got drunk, said a punch a guy in the face, stabbed him 4 times. So you look at all them little boys that are growing up in the gang, they don't last.
No.
They don't last.
Yeah,
There has to be a consequence if you stick around for long periods of time. And I explain it to children. If you make the same choice I did for a long period of time, there's going to be a consequence. So I show them all pictures of maggots in my legs, and my legs still, this one's all right at the minute, it's still a bit dry, and my left one I dress it every day. You know, I'm 18 years, God willing, clean next month. And you know, I was in hospital the other day having some special injections in my legs. So even though like I got out of it all them times I spent in hospital, all the stabbings and everything else, I got the pictures to show the kids in schools. So it has to be with the book, pictures in it, because the book's written for children. Not adults read it, but I read it for children, because I think any child reads that. And it's got pictures to prove, evidence. They want evidence, and they go, right, this guy's now giving me a choice, and let me know that if I make the same choice he did, there will be a consequence. And that's safeguarding.
But like, and as you say, 18 years you've been on, you know, the clean and sober path.
Go down to the gym every day, eat healthy.
And you know, you're living a good life, but unfortunately you're still suffering those consequences of those choices.
But you know what? If I think about it, if I didn't have all these pictures and scars to show the kids, would they believe me? So when I show them the pictures, kids pass out. I was in a school, a really affluent school the other day in Stockport, really private school. Done the parents' evening. That morning I went to a kids' caring home, and you know that day we had like 5 people pass out. Yeah, most I've had in one day was 28. You know, it's okay. I've never had a complaint from a parent. The kids messaged me after, saying I'm gutted I missed half of it. I just passed out. You know, but it's so powerful that kids are fainting for it. Good, because I'd rather a kid get upset, faint, than wake up
and make the wrong
in a crack
choice.
den in 10 years' time.
One question I do want to put to you is, especially like from a parent's perspective, and I think that a lot of viewers will sort of wonder this from a parent's perspective. What should parents be looking out for?
I think signs will be if they're keeping an eye on their finance, if they're spending more money than you're giving them, selling their goods. You can smell weed a mile off. Look at the company they're keeping. Look at the company. Invite their friends around. Right, you know. I know they pretty private with their social media and don't want you to look at it sometimes. You can't follow me mum. Like, not that they've got anything to hide. You'd be the same if you was 15 now and you had social media years ago and your mum like wanted to be nosy. But you had to look at the company we keep. Is the shape to our future. If I'd have hanged about with normal boys, want to start smoking weed, I'd never fall into that world. But I started hanging about boys with drugs, vulnerable situation. Joined the gang, extremely dangerous, vulnerable situation. And we know the gang life. Weapons, drugs. So it's just about, and girls hanging about. I've been to a lot of girls' schools lately, all girls' schools. And I say to the girls about the boys you probably want to hang about with. Some girls love hanging about with the cool boys, but is the cool boy got a big knife in his pocket selling crack and heroin? Are you with him when a fight breaks out? Are you with him? Are he's going to give you a big something to hold? He's going to groom and use you. So we talk about exploitation, we talk about all that stuff with girls as well. Because that's just a boy thing, this. This is all of us. We're all in this together. As a mother to children, you know, I'm a dad, you know, we have responsibility for our children's well-being. But also we can't keep an eye on them after a certain age. When they get to 12, 13, you can't parent your kids as much as you did when they were 8, 9 or 10. They go out more. And whilst they're out your care, they are a little bit more vulnerable. So, you know, and I've got a daughter today who shot, you know, a story I left her years ago. I got with her mum and I got back with her, I got her pregnant, and then I left her. And then she comes to the prison to visit me a week away from giving birth, and I had 3 days left to serve. I got out and I didn't turn up. And she came that way to the prison to see me, you know, desperate. And sort of like, you know, proper abused and humiliated her. She's waiting for me to come home to her from the prison. I want to use drugs. And that's the power of addiction. went to my daughter's school about 10 years ago, and I bumped into her outside. I knew I was going, and I see her all the time, you know. So, and I told the kids that story. It's a bit more to it.
Yeah.
But so today, I think, in terms of my physical health, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm going down to the gym later. It don't stop me living my life.
Mm.
I eat healthy, yeah. You know, some days I eat loads of rubbish, but that's okay. Like anyone else.
Balance, yeah.
I pay my taxes. I pay my bills. I'm a productive member of society. I was a burden years ago. All I do is just be a complete nuisance. And you know, I got 2 million kids last year. I know with the help of obviously, you know, people we know well have helped me on my journey. And my mental health today, part of my work with kids, it's not everything to keep me sober and clean. But if you'd have asked me how I've stayed clean and sober for so long, it was having spiritual experiences. Yeah, this is a spiritual experience, allowing us to share our thoughts and feelings. Yeah. Instead of just going away and trying to, yeah, it's okay to have material stuff. It's okay to have, you know, to live. We have to live, and I've got some nice things in life, but it's about my internal well-being. And when I started to reach out and do things for others, whether it meet an addict, whether it go and sit in front of children, you know, the program tells me that, you know, that I have a job to do now. I'm clean and sober, is to try and help you. Yeah, and I think that's really helped me stay clean and sober for so long, God willing. You know, I woke up this morning, and if I get in bed tonight and I've not had a drink, I've not harmed anyone, took a drug or committed a crime, which I used to do every day, then I've had the best day ever. Yeah.
So you've spoken a lot about educating young people around gangs and the knife crime, and it's quite prevalent at the moment, as we all know. What are the biggest myths that you've encountered around people's ideas around knife crime and gangs, etc.?
I just think that when you see something come up on the news and someone's been stabbed, which is nearly every day now, you know, whether it's a black, white, Asian boy, you know, we know the majority of knife crime is obviously, you know, black related, it's documented. And you look and like, you think, the boy that's killed that boy, or the boy that's been killed by that knife, was that really preventable? As I said, I go back to what I said earlier. Every boy that's been stabbed to death because he was in a gang, or every boy that stabbed someone to death because he was a gang member over drugs, probably, which most of the violence is about, they were 10 years of age once, in a primary school with a whole life in front of them, full of life. And we look at him and think, well, can you guarantee then, and I look in the camera and say, can you guarantee that the kids you work with right now in primary school are never going to go off and join a gang and pick up? You can't. So for safeguarding reasons, yeah, protect them from harm and others, are you going to get someone to speak to them? Because if you don't, and then you've got zero safeguarding. Yeah, zero. And I don't think anybody should be allowed to work with children unless they get someone with real lived experience to come and sit in front of them and talk about situations, harming or others. So this myth about these gangs, we're never going to stop gangs. The only way you stop gangs, and this is really pathetic what I'm going to say, but it makes so much sense. If there was no drugs, there'd be no gangs. They couldn't survive. If there was no gangs, there'd be less knife crime. And if there was no drugs, there'd be 50% less people in prison. You'd see hardly any people begging outside shops, and the crime in our communities will be low. But what do drugs create? More gangs, more addiction, more crime, more prisons, more violence. Look at America, 4 million people in prison, 70% for drug-related crime. But unfortunately, there's more drugs than ever. And we talk about drugs just in general. You've got social drug using. People can socially take drugs and never commit a crime or harm anyone. But then, you know, sometimes on the person itself, if they've had childhood trauma, does that drug then become dependency? But, you know, you don't know. So I think it's so important that if all kids need to have this education, all kids. But if a kid's struggling at school, like I was, should I've had some TLC there? Should there have been a little workshop for me amongst teachers, which I've got in some schools now, where kids are struggling at home, maybe with divorce or they've had some trauma experiences, to nurture them through them years. I call it the 5-year minefield, 13 to 18. Now, if you can get a kid from the age of 13 when they're out more with their friends and exposed to this stuff, to the 18 when they're sixth formers and they're not falling into the world of dependency, joined a gang and picked up a knife, there's a great chance they go off into university and life will be okay. The majority of boys I speak to, the murderers, their murders were between 13 and 18. You know, and you look and you think, it's so important, that nurturing them.
And you know, I've had a couple of teachers on the show before, and they've spoken about the fact that doing their job is really difficult because they've got such pressure to meet the
100%.
academic
Yeah,
standards
yeah.
in terms of Ofsted
Stats.
and
Yeah,
and what are the achievement, all of this stuff in terms of what they need to pull out of the children from an academic
yeah.
perspective. They're not even trained on the basics of
No, they're
mental
not.
health.
No,
They're not trained to look
no,
out for them. And even if they did have that training, they don't really have the time
no,
to implement any of
no.
it because they're so inundated with the tick box exercises.
100%.
And that's the bit that frustrates me because, as you just said, that taking that time to ask that kid, what's going on?
Mm,
Is everything all right?
mhm,
How can I help you?
mhm.
Is there another way for you?
Yeah,
Would talking to somebody help you?
yeah,
Here's the person that
yeah,
you can speak to. But accessing these services, even as a therapist,
yeah,
it's driving me crazy. The access is so limited. The NHS is inundated.
yeah,
People think that that's the
yeah,
only way that they can
yeah.
access them services is through the
Takes a
NHS.
lot of time to get referrals.
Exactly. And then it's just a rigmarole. But by that point is while you're on that waiting list, that kid is just deteriorating,
Yeah,
deteriorating,
yeah,
deteriorating. And then they might see for them what might be this beacon of light of, oh, I can fit in over there in that gang.
yeah,
And bang.
yeah. That's it. And you're right. Kids are real sensitive. Real
Mm.
sensitive. I'm talking about. I'm not a mental health expert. Please believe me. I've been locked up in padded cells before, under psychiatrists in certain prisons. Now talk about mental health. And what do I know about mental health? What I know is, in that pivotal moment, is that day going to that police station, the last place in
Mm.
the world, I wanted to go. I hate them. There was help there for me. So plucking up that courage to go and say to someone, do you know what? And I broke down. I said 3 words: please help me.
Yeah.
And I'm on the floor in tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, emotional wreck.
Mm.
And I don't think anyone gets to the point where they've got a couple of days to live, they have to ask for help. But when I say to
Mm.
the kids in schools, if you're struggling, I don't care how big and strong you are or whatever you've got going on in your life, we all struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the most powerful thing I can do, and I've done for years in recovery, was go to meetings, meet people, ask for help, help others. That helps me. You don't realise the power of giving your time to someone, the rebound effect it has
Yeah.
on coming away, your spirits are lifted. We have a day in life, that's all we get, wake up in the morning, and you talk about, like people who lift your spirits. Well, you can lift your own
Yeah.
spirit by going out and spending some quality time with someone. And we talk about toxic, be around people that are toxic. And sometimes, I had to go and talk to boys the other day, these big rugby players, about toxic masculinity. What do I know about that? But I had to explain and said to the boys, come on, you're full of testosterone, you're big, strong lads. You can be quite
Mm.
intimidating.
Yeah, yeah.
Be mindful. And I said to them, have you all got a mum? And they all put their hands up. I said, you've got a sister? And most of them put their hands up. And I said, if someone was to verbally abuse your mum or sister,
Mm.
how would you feel? And a lot of them got like, well, I'll do something. And
Yeah.
I'll say, well, be mindful that the women you're hanging about with, the girls you hang about with,
Mm.
they're just like your mum and your sister. They're just
Yeah.
females. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm not asking you to go out and hug them all and be your friends, but just be mindful of your behaviour around women. And,
And again, like things like that, because I see it a lot in terms of like with the work that I
yeah.
do. People don't know what a good relationship looks
Hmm.
like. People don't know what is and isn't acceptable
Uh-huh.
within a relationship in terms of the tone of voice that you
Yeah.
use, the
Yeah.
expression.
Yeah.
Is it acceptable to use, foul language in
Hmm.
front of your
No, you're
loved
right.
ones, to your
Yeah.
mum, to your sister, to
Yeah.
your partner?
Hmm.
There's no education around them
No.
things in terms of, all right, in schools, you're told you're not allowed to swear, you're not allowed to shout, you're
Of
not allowed to,
course.
all of that stuff. But why?
Uh,
The why isn't explained in terms of that isn't the way you connect with
no,
people.
of course not. And you're right, because sometimes in first impressions, I'll say to the kids, there's one thing that follows you no matter where you go,
Mm.
your behaviour and attitude.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't get away from it.
No.
So, I remember being in a college once and there was these girls and they were just sort of giggling halfway through the workshop, being disrespectful, and the other kids got the hump with them. That's fine. It happens now and again.
Yeah.
And at the end I said, if you walked into my office now for a job interview and some of you behave like you have and you were being disrespectful, see your application form, it's more than likely I'd look at it and read it less and wonder, and I make sense. So be really careful. And the girls and boys that were giggling after, they come up and say, we're really sorry, you didn't realise we lost our, you know. And I said, it's fine. I said, it's fine, And it's just about, you have to be mindful of kids that no matter where you go, yeah, you ain't going to be saints. None of us got a halo above our
Mm.
head. None of us can
Mm.
levitate,
Mm.
right? But I have to be mindful that my actions, my behaviour, my thoughts, my feelings, I have to sometimes think before I open my mouth. Yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes we see it on TV all the time. I laugh at some of the stuff I see on social media. You look, you think these people have clearly not sat there for 30 seconds and thought about what they've said.
Yeah,
And that comment now, you know, these celebrities and these footballers becoming politicians, and everyone's jumping on this bandwagon, and it's like it's really hard. And and you know, I spoke to Mark about it. You know, like that ability to mind your own business.
Yeah.
It's so difficult when you're on social media and your stuff thrown in your face every day, and it's just try not to buy into things, you know, and try and keep my side of the street quite clean, pay my bills, stay clean and sober, don't harm anyone, and try and love all. I got that tattoo on my arm. Really difficult thing to do, but when I've done that, I found I become quite a private man, kept myself to myself, and my life's absolutely fine today. You know, as I said, it's I wouldn't want for anything else. I say I'm going to work tonight with some little Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, I'm on a train up to Taunton, 5 assemblies,
Nice.
1,000 kids. You know, dozens will pass out, cry, laugh, and then that's it. Weekend to myself, and then next week I'm all over the place. But as I said, it's I'm in a really nice place today where I've got this great opportunity to just try and take care of myself over a 24-hour period, you know.
But that, what you said there about, you know, you got the kids that are giggling or some that are getting, you know, you didn't chastise, you didn't get the that you're sort of being, your talk's being disturbed or what have you, and you've taken on board that they're kids and their kids are going to do what kids are doing.
Yeah.
But what it sounds like you did is you explained the consequences of that type of behaviour.
And now I've come out and identified it straight away. I went, oh, really sorry, we didn't realise.
And it goes to show you that it doesn't take a lot of time to have that impact, does it?
A few seconds.
It's just the right message and that explanation. Like, I always say this to a lot of people, especially when you're bringing up kids, explain. Explain it. If you explain it, don't just say, oh, because I said so.
No, they were just unaware that their little moment, if they was to continue to behave like that, and that, you know, respect, disrespect, we all disrespect people. Every kid goes through that disrespect, respect people. But I don't think they'll, you know, they just lost their trail of behaviour for a few seconds. But I'm saying, you know, you've got to be mindful that obviously if you walk into an office one day and you're going for a great job and you're desperate to get the job and your behaviours, and you look and you think, and they come up after, I'm really sorry, we didn't realise, you know what I mean? I said, look, okay, that's fine, you know, I won't have a go. I'm just trying to say that just be aware. That wherever you go, your attitude, behaviour follows you. And I know what you want in life. You want a job? Yeah. You want a nice car? Yeah. You want this? Just be careful, you know? And as I said, it's so important, and, you know, we can finish on this. I strongly believe that any adult who's got an opportunity to get someone to come and speak to their children about situations that can harm them, if they don't do it, then you've got to start checking your integrity. Why are you working with children? What, you know, maths and English ain't going to keep them safe from drugs. End of. I don't care how good they are at maths. I don't care how good they are at football. I don't care how good they are at sport. If they fall into the world I did, harm will come to them and others. So, you know, for safeguarding issues, get something. I follow lots of, I'm not going to say for legal reasons, well-funded household name organisations on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. And there's thousands of posts year after year. And I very rarely see one about drugs awareness. And you look and you think, my God, it can't, you know, come on, you know, go that extra mile.
And I think people forget, and this is the bit that's really, I think people really forget this. Addiction doesn't discriminate, does it?
No, or drug dealers. Two things, and that's what I say to the kids.
It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter.
White, Christian, Muslim, Jew.
It really has no discrimination. It can come for anyone at any point, at any time. And people forget that. It's almost easy for people to sort of sit there on the holy, it wouldn't affect. I mean, you even said it yourself. You had that view in the early days of you know, crack addicts and all the rest of it.
To judge them. Become one.
But there is no discrimination, is there? It can come for anyone
you know
at any time.
It explains in my book, all the drug dens I woke up in for 20 years. I can say this, you know, as adult content. I don't say it to kids. I've been in drug dens where girls have come in early hours of the morning, looking awful. You can tell they were pretty once. They probably look 20 years older than what they really are. And the reason they'd come in the crack dens at 3 o'clock in the morning, because they've been out selling themselves to strange men. That's someone's daughter. That's someone's daughter that's got to go out and sleep with strange men all day, humiliate herself. Lousy 200 quid
for her
to give that to the drug dealer, because you don't care where she's got the money from. So that's my job today, to make sure that these people that watch these podcasts, I don't care what form of life you're from, there's two things as well, don't discriminate: drug dealers and addiction. So if you work with kids, Yeah, get your arse in gear, get them spoken to about drugs, and give them a chance in life. You know, and as I said, I'm really grateful. I've got a great job. There are some great schools out there. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be doing my job today.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm busy for the right reason. And as I said, if I can get to another 10 years of this, another million kids, and I always said, like, someone said, how much do you spend on drugs? I said, I'm not sure, between 1 and 2 million. And I said, okay. I said, why do you want to educate 2 million kids? I said, well, every pound I wasted on drugs, I'll educate one kid.
Yeah.
Pound a kid, ain't a bad deal, was it? I probably won't like children in 10 years. I'll be like, any kid kicks their ball in my back garden, I won't give it back. You know, it's like, but you know what? As I said, you know, you got children and they're healthy, and there's always issues at home.
Yeah.
No, there's no perfect life. But at the minute, it's great, isn't it? And how's your little one now? Is she?
She's nearly 8.
8, yeah. 8 going on 15
Oh,
probably, yeah.
that's what I was saying to the guys. Yep, she's turned into a tween.
That's all right.
That's what she refers to herself. So she's bathing herself.
Yeah.
I walked in the bathroom the other day. She had a face mask on, and
Brilliant.
so she's at that stage.
But you know what? It's lovely, and do you know what? I love working. If you look at, if you've got teenagers, and if you've got kids around the age of 8, year 4, 3. And I work in primary schools with year 3 and 4, and they're just so, like, they change, sadly. They become teenagers, the attitude, the behaviours, all from school, from social media. And, you know, when I go into a school, it's funny, because when I go into a school and I say any questions, if they're year 4, 5, 6, every hand goes up and they drive me mad, right? Yeah? Like, you know, what's the maggots like? What's prisons like? You know, it's like all these questions they ask you. Then the other day I was in a secondary school, year 6, sixth formers, and not one hand goes up. Like, they want to ask me something, but they're terrified.
Yeah.
Because obviously they get this thing of, like, being judged by others, and sadly that's what happens today. You know, we become quite sensitive, we're terrified. But yeah, and it's lovely how when they're younger, they're a lot more. How can I explain it? There's a certain word you probably know. You know, like less fearful.
Yeah.
They say what they think. They don't care what you.
They're forthcoming, aren't they? If they've got a question, they'll
and
say
unfortunately,
it.
you get a bit older, and we get a bit scared of what people think about us. And I say that to the kids. I'm not saying don't go around with a rotten attitude, but you know, I think that if you have quite a strong emotional strength there, your mental health might be a little bit better in terms of I don't care what you think about me. As long as I'm not harming you, if I'm not harming you or anyone, then just be yourself. Just be yourself, and life will be okay, you know. So yeah, I'm sure all the kids are looking forward to having a few weeks off. I'm looking forward to having a few weeks off, you know. But until then, I turn up in fit spiritual condition. Take care of myself, get paid, and that's it. You know, life's absolutely fantastic, and I wouldn't want to change anything, you know. So yeah, hopefully whoever gets to watch this realises that we're all playing a part in this.
Yeah.
The well-being of all of us, but most importantly, because you're okay today, it's our children's well-being. And when we ignore it, that's ignorance, and sometimes ignorance, like with me, can eventually cause harm. So yeah.
Paul, thank you for sharing your powerful story and the incredible work you're doing to keep young people safe and informed. Where can listeners learn more about your workshops or perhaps buy your book?
Right, I've got a website, www.paulhannaford.com, which is obviously, you know, it's being done, sorted out, a new website's coming, but it's the old one's live. My book's on my website, it's on Amazon, Paul Hannaford, Unconscious Kid.
Yeah.
And the reason I called it Unconscious Kid, because I thought, what can I call it? I was once a kid, unconscious means not aware of my surroundings. I do a lot on social media, so LinkedIn, Paul Hannaford, Twitter, Instagram. So there's all stuff. If you want any evidence of feedback I get on social media, just click on any of my social media platforms. Parents, teachers, and most importantly students I speak to, give me feedback. And yeah, if you want me to come to your school and educate the kids in your care, I do tailor it. You know, so I've never had a complaint. From a parent. 1 million kids. Never had one complaint. All I get is parents every day on social media thank me, as you said. Coming from school, and there's a mother that give you a peace of mind that when she does go out, she's going to make the right choices.
She was definitely mindful of it, and as I said, she never came home and spoke about anything that went on at school.
With the pictures, and the kids want to show their brothers and sisters, and you know, and as I said, this is for every one kid I speak to, by the end of the day, it's probably 2 or 3 because they spoke to their family about it. So, you know, that million kids I've spoken to is probably 3 or 4 million now aware of me. So, may my work continue. As I said, all I've got to do is stay clean and sober, and I'll continue.
To all our listeners, thank you for joining us for this moving episode of the Silent Epidemic. If Paul's message resonated with you, or you know someone who could benefit from hearing it, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's spread awareness and keep the conversation going. Until next time, thank you.